Have you noticed that it seems like every respected PlayStation franchise that was once led by iconic male characters is now being headlined by female protagonists? From the intense anti-heroes we idolized to the legendary adventurers we grew up with, suddenly there's been a seismic shift. And to many, it feels like every new PlayStation game is more interested in pushing an agenda than delivering the epic edge-of-your-seat experiences that we grew up loving. Has PlayStation turned its back on the characters that defined an era? Or is it the gaming industry as a whole that's completely lost its way? And when you really get right down to it, what does this mean for gamers who just want to play great games? Over the past decade, there's been a massive shift in how PlayStation, and the entire gaming industry, approaches themes of representation and social awareness. Early PlayStation titles focused heavily on classic action-driven heroes, and most of them were men. Fast forward to today, and the landscape is completely different. Inclusivity and representation are front and center. Now, is this a bad thing? There are many who would say it is, and that it's completely ruined gaming and that everything is worse because of it. But I'm here to tell you that's not the case. If it's done well. That's the major point. If it's done well, it doesn't matter, because a good story is a good story no matter how you tell it, no matter who it's focused on. What actually matters is the story. And to games, that's what it should be about. The gameplay and the story. Those are the two things that define how good a game actually is. Sure, having pretty graphics helps and having nice lighting is amazing, but what really matters is your connection to the game, your connection to the characters, and how fun it feels to play the damn thing. And yeah, of course, you could say that politics in games have become completely unavoidable, and that no matter where you look, one thing is being latched onto one side of things, and then another thing's being latched on, and it's like you can't win no matter what's going on, because one type of people is gonna say this is the worst, and the other type of people is gonna say it's the best, and they're gonna fight about it, and you're not gonna be able to avoid it. But let me tell you this, and I'm quoting Asmongold here, which to a lot of people that's probably problematic, but I'm gonna say a lot of times he's right about things. And for this, he's right. No real people have a problem with politics in games. Metal Gear Solid and Metaphor prove this, because those are highly political games that talk about themes and talk about things that a lot of people would have problems with, but because they do it properly with good writing, with proper representation, with really actually taking their time to explore the themes in depth and not just go surface level, not just play it off as some type of like opportunity to teach you something like you're a 5-year-old like Dragon Age. The thing is that people have a problem with is political and social ideology being inserted into a game in a heavy-handed, one-dimensional and patronizing way. Exactly. That's exactly right. Because even like how this guy says, people like political intrigue, not political indoctrination. And it's 100% true. I'd like to use The Last of Us Part 2 as an example of that. In The Last of Us Part 1, you play as Joel. Tough guy, cool guy. Everybody loves Joel, how can you not? And of course, in The Last of Us Part 2, you play as Ellie, a woman, who also happens to be a lesbian. Which some people might say, what the hell? I don't want to play as a dumb lesbian, I want to play as cool guy Joel. Brr, brr, brr. Listen, the way that Ellie is written, the way that the character is acted, is perfect. Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog know how to make a great game with great characters, and they nailed it with this. And even when you get further into the game, which, spoiler alert, I'm going to say something that might spoil the game for you for people who haven't played, but when you eventually play as Abby, one of her side characters, her partners, her friends, Lev, is a trans character. And you know what? It's perfect. You don't feel like it comes out of nowhere where it's like, oh my god, they're forcing this on me with this, could it be more Dragon Age? You don't feel that way at all, because the character feels real, and the storyline feels real, and the dilemmas that are presented, and everything that they go over feels like it's natural and real. It doesn't feel heavy-handed. It doesn't feel like they're forcing it down your throat, as much as some people online would want you to believe that it is forced, that it's overdone, that it's top-of-the-line dramatic, and that it's just garbage. It's not true. Then you look at a game like Concord. Sony on Concord's failure. With new IP, you don't know the result until you actually try it. They're saying that this game struggled because it just wasn't a very good shooter or whatever, and you know what, that's honestly part of it. But a lot of it was because these characters were absolutely garbage, and people didn't want to play a game that they felt was built around 100% woke nonsense. That's just what it is. Nobody was interested in this game, and even the people that the game itself was supposed to appeal to didn't even care to play it because this game peaked at something like 1,000 players. So let's be real, nobody was interested in this. As much as they were trying to force, like, we're so inclusive with these inclusive character designs, we're so inclusive with this inclusive story where anybody can be who they want to be and explore space in whatever way they want to explore space, nobody cared. Why? Because it was bad. There's a difference between good writing and bad writing, and it's very obvious when it comes to PlayStation games and non-PlayStation games. And it's why, even though PlayStation is, of course, moving to, honestly, be more woke, it's just what it is. You can't avoid it. Let's be real here. Let's really take a look at things for real, okay? Last of Us 1, a man, a white straight man. Last of Us 2, a white lesbian. Horizon, a lesbian. Ghost of Tsushima, an Asian man. Ghost of Tsushima 2, an Asian lesbian who's apparently maybe not lesbian, maybe bi, maybe trans, male, female, or androgynous. Success and prosperity always. Never felt more myself, yet the journey continues. Inari is depicted as male, female, andro, or a group. You can't avoid it. It's just what it is. Now, does it really matter? The answer is no, it doesn't. It matters when it's done poorly, because that's when people have a problem with it. I mean, sure, there's gonna be people who have a problem with it no matter what. No matter what. There's people who have a problem with Ellie. There's people who have a problem with Abby. There's people who have a problem with this woman being cast as in Ghost of Yote. There's things that just happen no matter what. You're not going to be able to get away with it. People are going to feel how they want to feel. They're going to say you're forcing something on them no matter what. But you cannot deny that things are progressively getting more woke. They're more woke than they ever were. Let me back up for a second here. I'm not saying this is a problem. I'm not saying this is a problem at all. I'm saying do it the right way. If you're trying to push a message, do it the right way. Learn how to write characters that have real struggles and real opinions and have to really feel something and explain themselves and go through a struggle and express that struggle so that people latch onto it and people want to be like, wow, this is a character that speaks to me regardless of what they identify as, regardless of what their, orientation is or anything like that. Because people just want a good story with good characters. And yeah, you might not reach somebody like this guy Grumps, okay? You might not reach this guy, and you might not reach his followers, because it's like, no matter what, I think AAA devs will try to double down and get even stronger protest message out. This will tank their games even harder. Investors will eventually punish them. 2 years to stop the spread. Grumps honestly been called out as being a moron many, many times. Colin Moriarty recently called him out for being a guy who's just trying to push some sort of agenda, and it's very, very obvious.
I think you are a grifter. I think you, as I described earlier, either are completely stupid or lying to people. And you do not care what is true and what is not true.
There are people like that who are just trying to push an anti-woke agenda, an anti-DEI agenda. And they probably got to chill a little bit because some of them go to the extreme, and you don't need to go to the extreme. And that's the same thing with the game. You don't need to go to the extreme. You can have a message. You can push that message. But when you really try and force it on people, that's when people have a problem. Nobody wants to be told what to do or how to think or how to act or how to whatever. They want to do what they want, honestly. And when you tell them, like, no, you can't think like this. No, you can't. This character's like this because too bad for you. Then people don't like it. And it's why you get people like this, Pirate Nation, who's laughing in the face of Dragon Age because it hasn't sold that well. Because people like this want games like this to fail. Because Dragon Age, rather than just letting you experience what it might be like to be a trans person in this fantasy world or have a trans character be in this fantasy world, they brought it down to the most basic garbage level of like making it modern day and having it feel like it's like how Skill Up said. It feels like HR is in the room with you, basically making sure that everybody uses the exact wording and dialogue that they need to get the point across without hurting anybody's feelings, without saying anything controversial, because my God, imagine if you do that. And they just really force this garbage on you. And it's like, you can do it so much better. But you decided to go this baby route and you make us feel like babies for playing your game. It's just not good.
Thanks to Tosh.
That's why we recruited her.
Actually, Tosh uses them for themselves now.
They asked us to let folks know, so now you do.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Thank you for telling me.
That's why we recruited them.
You can do it way better. The Last of Us teaches you that you can introduce a lesbian character and have it feel natural and have it feel great and just have it be like, yeah, this is a character that just happens to be a lesbian. Oh, well, that's just what it is. And there's nothing wrong with that because there's lesbians and great for them. Enjoy being a lesbian. I'm happy for you. Good for you. You know, whatever. That's how it should be. But then you have something like even in Horizon, where spoilers everybody, at the end of Horizon, the DLC, you have the option to make Aloy a lesbian or not make her a lesbian. And it just feels like it kind of comes out of nowhere. And then they kiss and you're just like, okay, but because it was a choice, is it going to be acted on in the sequel? Or is it just like, was this just a thing for me kind of thing because I chose the option? But it just feels like, why? Why does she need to be a lesbian? Is it because Ellie's a lesbian? Also, Rivet from Ratchet and Clank. Why does she need to be a lesbian? Does every female character from PlayStation need to be a lesbian? It just feels strange. Again, that when you look at it from a top level view like that, you start to think, well, now it feels forced. Because now it feels like every game is like trying to have this message of like, you can't just be a female and be strong. You have to be a female lesbian. You can't have a straight man because that's bad. And now you can't just have a woman. She has to be unconventionally pretty and then also has to be a lesbian. And then it's the same thing like with Star Wars Outlaws. The main character, she looks like this, but for some reason in the game, she looks like this. Why? Then that makes people go, well, now they're trying to push a message. And then these game developers and game publishers don't want people to say, hey, we're pushing a message here or whatever. But when you make these kind of decisions and do things like that, that's where it leads to people like Grums, Moron, being like, this is what it is. They're trying to push some sort of DEI message or whatever, and it gets people all riled up when the main point should just be that, are your games good? Do they tell a good story? Are they fun to play? Is it engaging? Is it interesting? Because that's all that really matters. When I played The Last of Us Part 2, I never once was like, ugh, can't believe this. Can't believe Ellie's a lesbian. Can't believe, I mean, you already know from the first game, but you know what I mean? I still wasn't like, ugh, because it was just done well. It's done well. But when they have a game like Dustborn, which is not a PlayStation game, but I'm just using an example, where everything feels so absolutely forced, you're just like, this is unbelievably garbage and nonsense and stupid. And who is this for? Who does it appeal to? And even if it does appeal to some of those people, is this really what you want? Just so that you have some sort of minor connection to a game, you want it to be like this? Don't you want it to feel natural? Don't you want it to be better? The Last of Us Part 2 is a great example of representation. To me, at least. I feel like Dragon Age is not. It's really not. And even when you look at something like this, a fantasy game where the Thieves Guild doesn't actually steal because it's too problematic. Nah. Anything we hunt is salvage, old forgotten ruins and crap, and we make sure we're not screwing over a culture that lost it. So not only is the writing extremely elementary style writing and modern for no reason in a high fantasy, which doesn't even make sense, which also is basically my main problem with the game, is that every line of dialogue feels like Marvel and it really just brings the game down. But like, come on, man. You're so afraid to hurt literally anybody's feelings in any way at all that you don't even want the Thieves Guild to thieve. Like, come on. And then people go like, yeah, games are too woke. Yeah, it's because of crap like this, man. Stop being afraid to do something. Like, legitimately, I feel like if Duke Nukem made a revival now, it would be huge. Maybe it would be huge with the wrong crowd, but it would be huge because it would be a game that was finally like, I'm done with this woke garbage, and I just want to come out there and be like, this is what it's like to shoot guns and rescue babes or whatever the hell. Like, I don't even remember what Duke Nukem does, but he's here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum or whatever. You know what I mean? Whatever. But it's like, you're pushing people so far to the limit at this point where that's causing the divide. People who are like on the fence are getting fed up. Same thing with Hogwarts Legacy. You have this massive group of people online who are literally so offended by the game that they won't even say what it's called because they're like afraid they're gonna get hit by lightning or something. So they call it the Wizard game. Meanwhile, it was the best-selling game of the year, which shows that people actually don't give a damn about this woke DEI crap, and they just want to play a game that's good. And Hogwarts Legacy was a good, fun game. So of course, people are gonna play it, and that's why it's sold. And there's also like trans and lesbian characters in the game, and they're just natural characters, which is also why people don't care, because it's not being shoved down their throat. Stop being dumb. Stop being crazy. Just make something good. If you want to tell a story about a trans character, then just write a good story about a trans character. If you want to tell a story about gay characters, make a great gay character. Don't take an existing character, change their race, and then make them gay, because that's what pisses people off. That's what makes people go crazy online and causes all these problems in the industry, and not even in the industry, in like the world. It's when shit like that keeps happening. People just want a good game with good characters, good story. That's all you gotta do. You can make it about whatever you want it to be about, but just make it be good. And people will play it. People will respect you for it.